And welcome back, everybody, here to another edition of the Men of Steel podcast. Me, Charles Project Richie, as we're continuing right now, as the Steelers are getting ready for their week number 3 opponent in preseason when they be taking on the Tennessee Titans. That's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start. That'll be happening this Sunday night. As a matter of fact, as we inch a little bit closer, Ben Roethlisberger is reported to have one of his only starts as he gets ready to tune up for the regular season. As we get closer at this point in time, as you can tell, a lot of things. But right now, I just wanted to say right now, if you guys want to join in on the podcast, number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. You can hit me up on Twitter at Project Richie. You can also check me out, stream me live, as I am live right now on Instagram, Men of Steel Nation, and of course, on my YouTube channel, Men of Steel Podcast. So let's get ready to get right into it as we go into like the opening drive at this point in time right now. And definitely what was reported yesterday morning, and it was reported actually, as a matter of fact, we're talking about one of the defensive stars in particular as we look at it. It was being reported by Ed Boucher of The Athletic that the Steelers, as of right now, they are working to extend Joe Hayden, but not 3 other defenders. And the Steelers, they've been in negotiation trying to extend Hayden beyond his last under contract, but there's been little progress reported. And, the Steelers style the last few years, anytime they've been kind of getting like new deals done, it's usually been seemed to be like close to around the opening of the weekend of the regular season at that point in time, or somewhere around the conclusion of the preseason. We saw a couple years ago with Stephon Tuitt when he got his deal done, when he signed his contract right before the start of the regular season on the road when they took on the Browns, when you look at it. And I wonder if that's going to be the same case for Joe Hayden. The biggest concern right now, when you look at a guy like Joe Hayden, who came to the Steelers, who wanted a little bit more money with the Cleveland Browns and weren't willing to offer him much. But like I said, there's been very rare athletes nowadays, whenever you start going past like 31, not too many corners survive much longer into their career. And speaking of Stephon Tuitt, remember, he signed a 5-year, $6 million contract back on September 9th of 2017. And don't forget, since then, over time, though, remember, he converted about $10.21 million of his base salary back in 2018 into a signing bonus, which created an extra $8.168 million in cap space. The only thing is with Joe Hayden right now, and it just seems to be a little bit reluctant at this point And you start to see a lot of the guys, like I said, we mentioned like a Daryl Rivas, and how many other corners that really last that long when you go like deeper into their careers, where it's going to be that you'll see them making it long term. I mean, the only question you need to start asking right now is a situation where he does have to consider moving to safety position, or particular free safety. And I think when a lot of people look at it right there, when you look at a guy like Rod Woodson, who got himself hurt a long time ago, I think it was his knee back in 1995 when trying to tackle Barry Sanders, the same year that the Steelers went to the Super Bowl. They did it pretty much without their defensive player of the year at that point in time from about 2 years ago. And you looked at it, he suffered a torn ACL when his foot got caught in the artificial turf at 3 Rivers Stadium, pretty much. And it was a season opening victory. Yeah, Carlo Lake, who came in that year to replace him, to be like the guy for Rob Woodson. And so here's the interesting thing. Like I said, Joe Hayden right now, he's 30. He'll be turning 31 about next April. The only thing is right now, will Steelers be able to convince him into a game plan? And Boucher seems to think that it would be wise at this point in time. But at the same time, too, Joe Hayden, he's a guy right now who really believes in his mind that he could play into his mid-30s, between 35, 36 years old. And as quoted, I don't see myself going to safety, Hayden said. I think I'll stay at corner. If that's what I have to do, nah, I like corner. Once you say, all right, Joe, you're like our third corner, I think that's going to be my time. And I think that's a very interesting point. But at the same time, too, I do realize when you got other guys like on the Steelers right now, like 3 other starters, let's take a look at them. I mean, you got defensive tackle Devon Hargrave, safety Sean Davis, linebacker Bud Dupree, all who only have 1 year left on their deals this year, their rookie deals, and they would become unrestricted free agents next year if new ones aren't forthcoming. And that's the thing right there. I think right now, I think Ed Boucher, he made an interesting point right here where he definitely felt like, why invest money in them right now when you got a guy who could probably still give you a best chance at Super Bowl and still keep your chances at winning legitimately and in championship form? I'm just not sure if right now, if like the health wise, the availability of a guy like Joe Hayden, is that going to necessarily be your answer for that when you look at it? I mean, like I said, he's got to prove a lot of people wrong. I mean, he's got a good work ethic, good spirit. He's been a great contributor to this team. But when you look at him when he's joined the Steelers, let's not forget, though, in his first year when he came into the league, he only started 11 games. I remember he got hurt around the game. I want to say it was on the road, in my opinion, if I'm not mistaken. Someone help me out here. I think it was on the game against the Colts in Indianapolis where they barely won, and they were struggling. And I think it was like about like 10 points in that game. And like I said, last year he had a much more better season. He was starting for 15 games in that year. When you look at that, I want to say the only game that I think he missed when we do the research here, looking back at last year, the game that he missed was against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was a game where the Steelers really got lit up in that game. And you saw like how they were doing at it at that point in time. And you got to start thinking right now, are the Steelers right now, I mean, taking a gamble at a guy who, when you look at his first year, he's 30. I still, and even still, I mean, even though it was a freak injury, like what happened in training camp, nothing too bad. But I mean, getting stepped on by one of his own teammates accidentally, and you see what happens right there. I think it is wise investment for Joe Hayden. I think Joe Hayden, at the end of the day, like I said, he definitely just helps keep the window open. I think the Steelers do realize they could go all in on a guy like Ben Roethlisberger I think they don't mind going all in on a guy like Joe Hayden, a quarterback you haven't had a shutdown quarterback since Rob Woodson. I mean, with his ankle injury, by the way. And why not? I think this is where you got to really start thinking that this is the time where you don't want to have like any more subtractions, but you want to keep this team and this core intact, and you just want to like stay at championship level. And I think with a guy like Joe Hayden, I think they do realize. I mean, him and his agent Drew Rosenhaus, when you look at it, I think he does keep their chances alive. Definitely gives them the best shot at winning long term, and we'll see what happens. But also, too, let's get into some other news here on the opening drive here on the Mass Steel Podcast. Me, Charles Crouch, Richie, as we move a little bit more further here as we look at it. We also got some news to report, too, on the void of Daryl Drake with his wide receiving coach position that have been left somewhat of a void right now at this point in time, where you had Daryl Drake unfortunately tragically pass away back on Saturday evening, August 10th. And one guy that name has come up when we look at it, and the news right here, when you look at, according to Bob Pompiani, Ray Sherman, he's the interim wide receiver coach replacing Daryl Drake. And you got to remember, Ray Sherman, too, don't forget, though, he has been with the Steelers back, I want to say, in Hines Ward's rookie year when you look at it. And it was the Pittsburgh Steelers at that point in time, back in 1998, the offensive coordinator. He's had a pretty decent resume throughout his career. I mean, when you look at it, and pretty interesting trips. And I think one of the biggest things to point out, too, when you look at his pedigree overall with a guy like Richard Sherman, and he's had some big names under his belt that he's got able to tutor at that point in time. In his overall football career, when you look at it. And like I said, I mean, one of the biggest things right here, when you think about all the stuff that he's done, I mean, he was able to coach up a guy, I think Jerry Rice, when you look at his overall time. I mean, from 1992 to 1993, he worked with Jerry Rice right there in San Francisco. I mean, he had some good workings right there. And then you look at his stints with the Vikings, too, back in the mid-90s and around that time. And I think right now, I mean, the plan is definitely calm, cool, collective. He has familiarity right there. And I'd be interested to see how the players respond to him in this year. I mean, so far it's been all positivity throughout training camp, throughout this whole off season. But like I said, I think the biggest thing right now where I have a little concern, he's only been with them for 1 year, great pedigree, but it's been a long time, different era of Steelers football. How does he make his immediate impact right there? And you also got a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster right now who's been – him and the team has been wearing some dedicated arm sleeves on them. And you look at it, and there's some wristbands for the receivers to remember Coach Drake. One says shut out the noise, and the other says never choose good when great is available. And I love those slogans right there. And I think this is right here a great sign right now when you look at where the mental aspect of this team is right now, the forecast where they're going to be at, what they want to try and do going forward. And I really love the enthusiasm right now. I think it's definitely some contagious energy. I mean, you're looking at it right now. I mean, one of the guys who's really been standing out to me as far as on the receiving core, I mean, you look at James Washington, who has been in better shape. Definitely. I got to believe Daryl Drake was definitely a big influence on him with his time there. Because remember, James Washington was a guy where he was having his struggles not staying in shape. And like I said, I had one friend mention to me, usually when you have guys coming out of college into the pros, they're not going to know what to expect too much going into this. So it would be a rude awakening at that point in time as far as like not knowing like what to expect. And some stuff is going to come as more of like a hustle motivation. It's going to take some time. Now he knows more what to expect. You also see Deontay Johnson. I'd be interested to see what he does this year, throughout the year, especially on special teams. And like I said, I really believe those would be some key impactful guys, especially Deontay Spencer, who I thought definitely had a good game this past Saturday when they defeat the Chiefs in that game. And that's just a really good stuff. You see the collective effort. You see the overall intestinal fortitude this team has, the message they've been conveying, and right now that's what's really all important. Also, let's get into our final topic here, as we're in the opening drive right now on the Metal Steel podcast. And some update right here with some roster news. Steelers have just signed outside linebacker J.R. Elliott, who been cut by in Miami. Apparently, J.R. Elliott, he's played 4 seasons throughout his career in the NFL from 2014 through 2017. And he was also one of the Alliance of American Football players this past year who has stints primarily with Green Bay and Dallas. And he plays 3 of his years with the Green Bay Packers, each to the playoffs. And he's never been a starter. He's been more of a bench guy. And the highest amount of games he ever started in his career was 14 games. That was back in 2015. And 2015 was the year the Green Bay Packers lost to the Arizona Cardinals. And I want to say that was in the divisional round. It wasn't the divisional round, excuse me. They were a wild card team that year. And you look at overall his stats right here of his defensive highlights to spotlight what he's been able to do. He comes into the Steelers right now as a guy who's been a journeyman. I think he's been like an undrafted player throughout his entire career. He came out, out of Toledo, another Toledo guy that the Steelers seem to be picking up recently. So he's been in 39 games, and he's had overall in his career 47 total tackles with 7 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hits. Some stuff to spotlight right here. And the highest approximate value he's ever had in his career was 2. And that was back in his second year, back in 2015. And this also comes at the expense right now when you look at it, when you had right now Levon Hooks right now, who tore his Achilles. And since tearing his Achilles, that created an opening right there for the outside linebacker position. And don't forget, though, too, you still got Ola Adani right now with a torn meniscus that was reported this past weekend. So that's something to pay attention right now, I feel. So I definitely feel like Steelers are aware of that outside linebacker position, as well as when you look at the outside of the defense, you also got tight end right there you got to look into. Something you cannot fall asleep at the wheel and not forget about. And I think those are the biggest strides right now the Steelers have to stay focused on. They have to be a little bit more careful with, and we'll see what happens at that point in time. All right, now let's get ready to wrap up here with fair or foul right now. Listen to the Metal Steel podcast, me, Charles Project Richie. And let's get into it. Gaping concerns with the offensive line starting to show its age. So do you feel like right now it's a matter of time, like say by next year they're starting to need replacing some of their starters? I know they've been having some draft picks. I mean, when the last few years have been trying to get that little by little. I have to say fair on that one because when you look at the overall age of the Steelers offensive line, they're average about 30. And you got at least three out of those five guys in that offensive line in their 30s. Two of them is in their late 20s. And the youngest one out of that group would be Matt Filer. So he also had John Clayton, former ESPN NFL analyst, who right now trying to develop their offensive line. And Sean Sarrett is trying to do that. And John Clayton proposed the concept several years ago. When it comes to aging offensive lines, their effectiveness or lack thereof, once the starting line reaches the combined age total of 150 and has three with stars in their 30s, there's a good considerable drop-off is coming. And I definitely have to say fair on that one for right now, especially when you got like Ben Roethlisberger, who's be signed for the 2021 season. I would imagine that these guys, I mean, maybe out of that group who could probably like definitely withstand it is probably Marquise Pouncey. I mean, he's 30 right now. You got Villanueva, who's 31. Ramon Foster, who's 33. They used to be the questionable one. He's the left guard at that point in time. And usually, as you know, the left guard, I think that's usually one of the guys, him or the left tackle that protects the quarterback's blind side. And you got to think about that. I mean, those are some big, interesting guys right there who I definitely feel, especially Villanueva and Foster, who did a real good job protecting Ben, keeping him on his feet. And stuff we wore that Ben Roethlisberger, what kind of security blanket do you give a guy like Mason Rudolph at that point in time? Or Josh Dobbs, if he's able to survive and win the backup QB position behind Ben Roethlisberger. I think those are things you got to pay attention to as we get on. So let's take a look at that. But then you also look at the rest of their offensive line. I mean, the overall offensive line is 26 years old. I mean, that's just the starters right there. But you got some guys who are probably on the up and come up, like Chukwuma Okorafor. And then you got also, too, when you look at it, you also got J.C. Hassenauer. And then, of course, you also got B.J. Finney, Zach Banner, Fred Johnson. Those guys are averaging like around their mid-20s. And, then, of course, the rest of the young bucks you got on there on your third depth will be Damian Prince, Garrett Brumfield, Patrick Morris, Gerald Hawkins. And, of course, one of the guys who they drafted this year, Derwin Gray. Let's pay attention. Let's keep an eye on that. I definitely don't want to fall asleep on the wheel with that one. I think it's definitely something you cannot turn a blind eye on, like I always say. And we'll see what happens. I think for right now, you definitely want to just continue building it. I think they have been preparing for that little by little. But Sean Sarrac's job right now, Sarah's job, excuse me, that's coming in here. And when you don't have the services no longer, which will be a big question this year, how they perform without Mike Munchak. I mean, his job right now is to prepare those young guys. I mean, Mike Munchak had his hand on the offensive line since being there with the Steelers for those years from 2014 through 2018. And I really think that's going to be one of the million-dollar questions this year as they prepare to move along and try and answer some just due and some needs. Also, let's get into fair or foul topic number 2. With Antonio Brown out of the picture, Ben Roethlisberger is going to throw fewer interceptions. I'm going to have to say foul on that one. I do realize with Ben Roethlisberger, and when you look at it, they're stating right here out of his 16 picks last year when he had 16 interceptions, 11 came from targeting Antonio Brown, most in the NFL since 2013, including 4 in the red zone. And, yeah, I mean, that's definitely one thing to pay attention to. I mean, especially when you looked at it last year when he, like, controversially criticized a lot of people in the media's eyes, his own teammates, from being on 93.7 The Fan radio show. I mean, you look at a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, he was able to call out James Washington, Antonio Brown for not running a better route. And Antonio Brown was, who was on the shop with LeBron James, I mean, this past offseason before they made a decision whether they're going to move on from him. was saying, dude, why don't you just throw me a better ball? And that was one of the things right there. So I'm not going to hold my breath just yet, but I definitely want to wait and see how that comes up. I think it's definitely going to be an interesting move at that point in time. But let's just not assume that just because you got one guy gone, and just because you're going to spread the ball around, don't think there ain't going to be any mistakes along the way where guys are going to have like some of their growing pains along the way. I think it's going to be smooth sailing. I still believe a guy like Ben Rossberg, he is going to still try and force balls in some areas. But I mean, at the same time, too, Randy Fiegner's come to his defense. He definitely feels like he's only had very few picks, at least 2 or 3 so far in training camp, but he's been having a real good work ethic so far. And he's rarely thrown any picks throughout this camp. And he seems like he's primed and ready to go. Let's not hold our collective breaths just yet. Let's see how that goes in. Then last but not least, fair foul topic number 3, as we get into it to close things out. There was an article written on The Athletic, and this was written by Sheil Kapadia, excuse me. And they were saying that this season, 8 NFL teams decided to make changes with their head coaches. Of course, as everyone remembers, it was the Jets, Dolphins, Bengals, Browns, Broncos, Packers, Bucks, and Cardinals going to week 1 with different coaches, as everyone is well aware of. As we look at that, I mean, when we look at it, Mike Tomlin right now, who at this point in time, when you look at the overall feel of where he is at with the Steelers, he's in a situation where he's feeling pretty good. I mean, at this point in time, his rating actually is feeling pretty good. I mean, considering the fact that he's never had a losing season. I mean, he's only missed the playoffs since being with the Steelers only 3 times overall. I mean, he's only had back-to-back 8-8 seasons. I mean, which was where a lot of people acted like the sky was falling. And that was a point in time right there where he still had legitimately decent contending teams. Even though the defense, yes, was starting to show their age. But I mean, at the same time, I really do believe at that moment in time, it was a transition. And you're also at a time, remember, let's not forget, where they had to move on from guys like Mike Wallace, James Harrison. And that was pretty much like a lot of like stuff that was hitting Coach Tomlin and his team at the wrong time. Even Ben Roethlisberger was in question at that point. I mean, a guy where he started to see the interceptions once again pick its ugly head when he got hurt in that 2012 year when the Steelers were rolling, and I want to say they were 5-3 at that point in time. I'm not sure if it was 6-2, but they ended up missing out on the playoffs and did not have a good stretch down the way when you really look at it. And that was really right there. And I think he went 1-3 down that stretch, which really hurt their chances. Lost some key games to the Chargers, the Cowboys, and you look at it. But as far as like the other coaches that were mentioned in this article too, when you look at guys who are being like true, I mean, difference makers. I mean, you got right now, of course, obviously, Bill Belichick, the defending 6-time Super Bowl champions, New England Patriots, and just being a good defensive mastermind as well as implementing good offense too with Tom Brady. There's a lot of people who argue why he's probably the GOAT in the NFL. Of course, you got Doug Pearson, the Eagles. I mean, so for right now, he's made the playoffs at least 2 out of his 3 years since being there. So pretty decent. And plus, a Super Bowl champion in his second year. Sean McVay of the Rams, who inherited a team that had 13 consecutive seasons while winning record, 12 straight seasons while playoff appearance. Remember, he recently replaced the guy in Jeff Fisher there, who was in the transition from St. Louis before they returned to LA. And then, of course, you got Andy Reid and Pete Carroll, Sean Payton, and Frank Reich. Those are the guys who are pretty much difference makers. I'm not so sure about Frank Reich just yet. I mean, with the Colts, that's still a wait and see, especially when you got the health injuries consistently once again with a guy like Andrew Luck. So let's wait and see on that. But the guys that could go either way, they mentioned Bill O'Brien of the Texans. He's definitely seemed to be one that had a little bit of some interesting times there with the Texans. Doug Marrone of the Jaguars. Well, then in the playoffs 1 year, great defense, but came up short against the Patriots. Jason Garrett, of course, of the Cowboys. I'm not sure about possibly going either way, probably because of his loyalship to Jerry Jones, but I do believe Jerry Jones wants him to deliver at some time, but the chemistry and the communication is still there. And then, of course, I mean, the biggest name he got on here, Freddie Kitchens of the Cleveland Browns. I mean, and he's on the guys that could go badly, along with a guy like Jay Gruden and John Gruden. I mean, let's speak about a guy like Freddie Kitchens, a guy who's never been a coach in his life. I mean, right now at this point in time, and when you look at this is first head coach at any level, expectations are for them to win the division. That's still a big wait and see, and they have a playoff caliber team for right now, but he's still got to prove they can manage different personalities in the locker room and be an effective leader if things don't go the Browns' way early. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Man of Steel podcast. I just want to say thank you, everybody, throughout the week for tuning in real quick here. And as always, you can always catch me Mondays and Wednesdays. And I was just celebrating my birthday yesterday. So thanks to all family and friends for giving me shout-outs on that day. But we're getting ready to get closer to the start of the regular season. We're in week number 3. So they got the Titans and the Panthers. So, my friends, for everybody who wants to tune in, once again, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. And I'll leave you. Don't be trolling, be rolling. You can always follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richie, Instagram at Steel Nation, and, of course, my YouTube channel, Steel Podcast. All right, everybody, here we go, Steelers. Here we go. I gone.